You know that feeling, right? That moment of panic when you find a lump somewhere on your body, like your neck. Your mind just starts racing. But what if we could look deep inside your DNA, into your very genetic code, to figure out what that lump really means? Well, a massive new study is doing exactly that, and it could totally change how we diagnose and maybe even prevent thyroid cancer.
To really get why this is such a big deal, you have to understand the sheer scale of the problem. We're talking up to 65%. That's the percentage of the general population that has thyroid nodules. It's incredibly common, which, as you can imagine, creates a huge headache for doctors.
And this is where it gets really tricky. Yeah, these nodules are super common, but the vast majority of them are completely benign, totally harmless. So you've got this massive diagnostic challenge. How do you find the dangerous needle in a haystack of harmless lumps?
And that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you sort the dangerous few from the harmless many? Right now, in the United States alone, trying to answer that question leads to over 600,000 biopsies every single year. So let's dive into this first. The thyroid's tricky problem. We're talking about a massive amount of over-investigation and a desperate need for a smarter way to tell the dangerous nodules from the benign ones right from the get-go. Just think about the impact of those 600,000 plus biopsies for a second. A staggering 92% of them come back either negative for cancer or they're just inconclusive. That means hundreds of thousands of people are going through invasive procedures, dealing with medical bills, and all the anxiety that comes with it. And in most cases, it's for nothing. I mean, there's just got to be a better way.
And that better way might finally be here. A massive international study was put together. You can think of it like a global genetic manhunt to solve this exact problem by digging for clues hidden deep inside our DNA.
And when I say massive, I mean it. The scale of this study was just unprecedented. Researchers looked at genetic data from nearly 2.9 million people. They pulled it from 19 different biobanks across 10 countries and 4 continents. This was no small experiment. This was a truly monumental effort.
So how on earth did they do it? They used this really powerful technique called a genome-wide association study, or GWAS for short. The easiest way to think about it is like this. Imagine scanning millions of books, our genomes, and looking for tiny little spelling differences that just happen to pop up more often in people who have thyroid disease compared to people who don't. So what did this giant genetic hunt actually find? Something incredible. 570 new genetic hotspots. These are specific locations in our DNA that are linked to all sorts of thyroid diseases. These are brand new clues that scientists have never seen before. And one of the most important things they found was this huge genetic overlap between different thyroid conditions. We're talking benign nodules, cancer, even autoimmune diseases. The study found they share genetic links, which suggest these diseases that seem so different on the surface might actually share common roots deep down in our genetic code. Okay, this brings us to the real core of the mystery. The study didn't just find links, it started to uncover the specific genetic clues that could explain why some thyroid nodules turn into cancer while others just don't.
What the research revealed is basically a whole new way of thinking about this. Benign nodules and cancerous ones, they aren't just random outcomes. It looks like they're actually driven by completely distinct genetic pathways that set you up for one outcome or the other.
All right, so here's the first major clue, and it really points to a breakdown in quality control. The genetic risk factors that are associated only with thyroid cancer, they were almost all found in genes that control 2 key things: the cell cycle, how and when our cells divide, and the systems that are supposed to repair damaged DNA.
Now for clue number 2. The genetic markers that were unique to the benign, harmless nodules, totally different story. They're linked to genes involved in what are called growth factor signals. Basically, the chemical messages that just tell cells to grow. So it's less like a quality control failure and more like the on switch for simple cell growth just got stuck. And here is the final and, I think, most fascinating piece of the puzzle. Some genes were linked to both types of nodules, and these genes are the ones responsible for maintaining our telomeres. You can think of them as the protective little plastic caps on the ends of your shoelaces, but for your chromosomes. This suggests that for any kind of nodule to form, benign or cancerous, a key step is for cells to somehow bypass normal aging and just live longer than they're supposed to.
Okay, so this is all really fascinating science, right? But it's way more than just a cool discovery. It has a direct, practical application. The scientists used all these findings to build a tool that turns this complex science into a personal risk score.
They created something called a Polygenic Risk Score, or PRS. It's an incredibly powerful tool that takes all those new spelling differences they found and boils them down into a single, easy-to-understand number. It's basically a genetic report card for your personal risk of thyroid cancer.
And the power of this score is honestly kind of mind-blowing. If your genetic report card puts you in the top 10% for risk, you have a staggering 10.7 times higher odds of developing thyroid cancer compared to someone in the bottom 10%. That's a huge difference in risk, and it's predicted entirely from your DNA. But they didn't stop there. They fine-tuned this tool to create a specialized score designed for that exact clinical problem we started with, telling the good nodules from the bad ones. By looking at the unique balance of benign-only versus cancer-only genetic markers, they created a score that could seriously improve a doctor's diagnostic accuracy in the real world.
All of this brings us to a really powerful and frankly hopeful conclusion. This research isn't just about getting a better diagnosis for a lump you already have. It's about creating a whole new way to proactively screen for the most dangerous forms of this cancer, long before they become a real threat.
And this is absolutely crucial. The polygenic risk score does more than just predict if you might get cancer. The study found it's also strongly linked to how aggressive that cancer is likely to be. It can help predict things like tumor size, whether it's spread, and the risk of it coming back after treatment. And this leads to maybe the most stunning comparison of all. Right now, to find one case of colon cancer, doctors need to perform 263 colonoscopies. That's the standard. Well, according to this study, to find one case of high-risk thyroid cancer using this new genetic score, you'd need to screen just 268 people. The numbers are almost identical. Think about what that means. The fact that those numbers are so close means that using a simple genetic test to screen for aggressive thyroid cancer is now a realistic public health strategy, just like screening for colon cancer is today. It literally opens the door to catching these dangerous cancers super early when they're still curable.
So we end with this thought. This research is obviously a huge leap forward for thyroid cancer, but it points to a much, much bigger picture. Are we standing on the edge of a new era? An era where a simple genetic test could give every single one of us a personalized health roadmap, telling us not just if we're at risk, but precisely which dangers we need to watch out for on our own personal journey? The code has always been there, in our DNA, and now, finally, we're learning how to read it.